Hi everyone, it's Lynn Terry, and I'm the host of the official 90-day lowcarbchallenge.com and also author of travelinglowcarb.com. So I wanted to do a Q&A today and really just kind of go in depth a little bit about what a ketogenic low-carb diet is, because there seems to be a lot of confusion about what is keto, what isn't keto, and how it's defined actually. And not just confusion, but also arguments, and they can get very negative. So just kind of want to go into that topic a little bit about a ketogenic low-carb diet. And because, like I said, there seem to be a lot of misunderstandings of how the word keto is defined. And just to kick off and say, this is not like a trend or something brand new. A ketogenic low-carb diet has been around for a very long time. In fact, it was first really popularized in the 1920s as a cure for pediatric seizures. It was again popularized in the 70s by Dr. Atkins as part of the Atkins diet, the original Atkins diet. And so just want to kind of kick it off with that. The definition of a ketogenic diet is really very simple. It is very low carb, high fat, moderate protein, or basically 20 net carbs max, 70% fat minimum, 25% protein max. And if you just keep it super simple, at 20 net carbs max per day and 70% fat minimum per day, the protein pretty much takes care of itself. And if you want to see a really simple explanation and illustration of that, you can find that on my blog at travelinglowcarb.com/macros. It's a super simple explanation and illustration of how that works. So it's not a low protein diet. You certainly don't want to do a high protein diet because that's bad on your kidneys. Even if you're not doing low carb, a high protein diet can be bad on your kidneys. So it's important for anyone on any diet to keep your protein at 25% of your total daily calories or less. But if you're doing a proper ketogenic low-carb diet, like I said, the protein pretty much takes care of itself. So again, there's a lot of misunderstandings about what is keto, what is a ketogenic diet, what isn't keto, and exactly how it's defined. And it causes a lot of arguments, it causes a lot of negativity and a lot of upset. So I just want to clarify a few points with you guys here today. So again, the basic definition of a keto diet is very low carb, high fat, moderate protein. And it's basically the exact same thing as phase 1 of the Atkins diet, except that you can maintain it and sustain it long term. In fact, I have been on a ketogenic low carb diet for 6.5, going on 7 years. And so anyway, yeah, it's easily maintained long term. It's very heart healthy. It has lots of health benefits, actually. Takes care of inflammation, problems for people who have things like arthritis, fibromyalgia, chronic migraines, seizures, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, heart problems, high cholesterol, all that kind of stuff. It is so great at, and of course diabetics, of course, it's so great at controlling those things and sometimes even curing those things. Although I'm not a doctor, so I can't make any claims. But what I want to say to you is this. When it comes to how do you define keto, a lot of people will throw in, well, if it has this or if it's made with that or whatever, it's not keto. That's not necessarily the case. So again, the basic standard definition of a ketogenic diet or a keto low-carb diet is low carb, high fat, moderate protein. That is it. Everything else is nothing more than personal preference. And I think that it would just be key to keep that in mind. So being a public figure, I catch a lot of slack and I get comments like, that's not keto, or whatever. So like I said, there's obviously a lot of confusion about what keto is and what it is not. So let's just take one example. Just because something has sugar in it does not mean that it's not keto friendly. That might be a shocking statement. However, there are many low-carb foods that are appropriate for a ketogenic low-carb diet that have sugar in them naturally. Even broccoli has sugar in it. Did you know that? If you've ever looked up the nutrition facts for broccoli, you'll see that about 1.5 cups of chopped broccoli has almost 3 grams of sugar, which is part of what makes up the 6 net carbs of that amount of broccoli. And so if you look up the nutrition facts, or if you're actually reading labels, you'll see that there are a lot of natural whole foods that are appropriate for a low carb diet that actually fall under the acceptable foods list on Atkins Phase 1 even, that naturally have sugar in them. So while fruit, for example, is way too high in carbs and sugar for us on a ketogenic low carb diet, berries are perfectly fine on a keto diet. So, or a low carb diet or whatever, in moderation, of course. So berries also do have natural sugar in them, just like broccoli. They have a little more, actually. So that's why you want to only eat berries in moderation, because that natural sugar is actually part of the total net carb count that you're looking at. So you can go to Google and you can type in broccoli nutrition facts. I wrote on my hand earlier, sorry. You can type in broccoli nutrition facts, and Google is going to show you the macronutrient breakdown right there in the search results. Or you can go to Google and you can type in raspberries nutrition facts, and Google will give you the breakdown right there in the search results. I actually included those links here with this video as well, so that you would have all that information handy and you could kind of see for yourself. Another thing that comes up a lot is what kind of butter to use, so grass-fed or not. So some people will say if it's not grass-fed butter, it's not keto. That is not true. That is also not true. So even margarine falls in the keto definition. So if you're on a low carb, ketogenic low carb diet, or a very low carb diet, or if you're doing Atkins and you're using like country crock margarine, for example, that does not fall outside the definition of keto. So again, it all boils down to personal preference. Now, obviously, real butter is the better choice. But when I first started eating low carb, I didn't know the difference. And so I would drink Diet Coke, and I used margarine instead of butter to cook with. It's what I grew up with. It's all I knew. I lost weight just fine. I lost 23 pounds in the first 6 or 7 weeks. So to say that it's not keto just because it's not real food, or not grass-fed, or not real butter, or something like that is not actually true. And so what I wanted to do is just clarify what is keto, what does it mean, and what is not. And so just because something has sugar in it, for example. In fact, the low-carb pancake mix that I really love has monk fruit in it. And so someone brought that up recently. You know, they put that in the comments when I was talking about my favorite low-carb pancake mix. And they're like, it has monk fruit in it. I'm like, yes, it does actually. And I'm fine with that because it's still very low-carb pancake mix. And anyway, but what I want to say is that whether it's healthy or not healthy, whether it's, organic or not organic or whatever, that doesn't define the keto diet at all. Those are personal preferences. Now, I'm going to tell you that you want to choose the healthiest foods possible. It's kind of like when you're doing 20 net carbs a day, that's not a whole lot of carbs. And so it's kind of like if I give you a $20 bill every morning, and that $20 had to stretch your entire day. It had to include the gas, the fuel in your vehicle. It has to include everything you eat or drink, stopping for a coffee. It has to include every choice and every decision you make, including being spread out across any expenses you have. So let's say I give you a $20 bill every day. You're going to spend that very wisely if that's all you have. So I want you to look at your 20 net carbs a day in the same way. You want to get the highest nutritional value possible for each of your net carbs, and that only makes sense. But that's going to come naturally for you as you get further and further into your low-carb diet or into your weight loss journey. You're naturally going to make healthier choices, and that's because you're reading labels. You're having to, track and log your food, so you're actually seeing what you're consuming. You're seeing what you're not consuming or what you're lacking, and you'll naturally just start making healthier choices. So don't feel pressured in the beginning to go all grass-fed, all organic, all blah, blah, blah. So things like clean eating or organic foods or home-cooked meals or, grass-fed butter, all of those things are personal preferences, period. And so I want everyone to be considerate of that fact, that those are personal preferences, instead of pushing those preferences on other people. Because again, a lot of people will say that's not keto or whatever. But if you just keep it super simple, if you just do 20 net carbs max, 70% fat minimum, And the protein is pretty much going to take care of itself there. So that is a ketogenic diet, period. And you can do it badly, because I did in the beginning. I ate bacon and mayonnaise and margarine and Diet Coke, and I lost weight, and I was on a ketogenic low carb diet. So I fell, within the definition of a keto diet, was definitely very low carb, was also, would have fallen within phase 1 of the Atkins diet, which are all one and the same. However, the quality of foods that I eat now are dramatically different than when I started. And that's a natural health progression that's going to happen with everyone. So I want you to relax into the low carb lifestyle, learn as you go. And if you're further along in the journey, don't push your preferences on other people. But if you're newer in the journey, be patient with those stigmas or whatever, and just blow it off. Don't let it affect you. It really affected me in the beginning. People were really mean to me, and they still are, but it doesn't affect me as much. But people, really gave me a hard time in the beginning because I didn't know better. Instead of, being like constructive criticism or being helpful and educational about it or what have you, people tend to be mean about it. I'm not really sure why. But again, a lot of those things are just personal preferences. So I'm going to give you an example that I hear a lot, because as you know, I go by low carb traveler. I travel a lot. I'm on the road. It's road trips, airports, all this kind of stuff. And so one of the things that's extremely convenient for me is McDonald's. And it's really not about the food. And so I'm so glad that they started doing an all day breakfast menu, because I'll order their sausage and eggs pretty much any time of the day. But if you're curious, the reason I stop at McDonald's so much is there's a number of reasons. They have good coffee. And so when I'm stopping on the road, coffee can be hit or miss depending on where you stop. McDonald's is very consistent with their, good plain black coffee. They have clean restrooms. They have Wi-Fi. They have free Wi-Fi. And so I have a mobile office, and a lot of times when I'm on the road, I need to stop and work and do a little bit of consulting work or what have you. And so I've got, restrooms, I've got coffee, I've got free Wi-Fi. And there is a fourth reason. You may or may not know this about me, but I do Great Dane rescue. And I foster rescued Great Danes. So a lot of times I'm traveling with Great Danes. And I also have one of my own who is a rescue. So when I'm traveling with a Great Dane, this is a funny fourth reason that I stop at McDonald's a lot. They have good landscaping. Now, if you've ever traveled with a dog, especially a Great Dane, you might know that it's important if you have to, like, for example, I drove to Marco Island and back from Tennessee. That's a 12-hour drive with an 8-month-old Great Dane puppy. When we say 8-month-old Great Dane puppy, we're talking 7 foot tall, 80, something pounds as a puppy. And anyways, they have to pee a lot. So when you're trying to find an exit, and then you have to find an exit that has a patch of grass, and then you have to find a patch of grass that actually has a tree or a pole on it, so you can tie their lead to it and let them run around a little bit. McDonald's has great landscaping. So they always have the same big patches of grass and trees and things like that. So there are a number of reasons why I tend to stop at McDonald's a lot when I'm traveling. And so that's why I end up getting the sausage and eggs a lot. So anyway, just to give you a little history or story behind that. So let's say, for example, that I go to McDonald's and I have sausage and fried eggs because I'm on a road trip, or because I'm out running errands, or because I didn't have time to eat breakfast at home that morning. This happens to all of us, right? So the round fried eggs at McDonald's, not the scrambled folded eggs, because those are liquid out of a bag, but the round fried eggs at McDonald's are just real eggs. They are cracked on site and fried right there in McDonald's. Eggs, by the way, are 0.4 carbs each, or half a carb each. That's all eggs, not just McDonald's. Anyway, the sausage at McDonald's is processed meat. Okay? It's just like all sausage. All sausage is processed meat. Anyway, but this sausage at McDonald's, the patties are 1 carb each. And you can see all of this on their website. And but anyway, people give me slack for eating the McDonald's sausage because they're saying that's not keto. Just because it's from McDonald's or because of the ingredients. And a lot of people have this aversion to McDonald's, like, oh, McDonald's is, is terrible, it's horrible, you're going to die. But the fact is, my favorite sausage that I buy at the grocery store and cook at home is Tennessee Pride brand. And two of the ingredients include sugar and monosodium glutamate, or however you say that. Nobody says a word about the sausage and eggs I make at home. What's up with that? So you can pick on McDonald's. You can say McDonald's is not keto, but then when I make sausage and eggs at home, you're like, oh, that's the perfect keto breakfast. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And anyway, but just because it's from McDonald's doesn't automatically mean or make it not keto or whatever. So that's, again, just a personal preference. If you don't want to eat at McDonald's or if you don't want to eat processed foods, that's a personal preference. That's not falling within the definition of what is a ketogenic diet or what's keto and what isn't. So with the McDonald's sausage, for example, at just 1 carb per patty, regardless of the ingredients, I don't care if it's full of junk or whatever, and regardless of your personal preferences, it certainly does fit into a ketogenic low-carb diet by the standards of 20 net carbs max, 70% fat minimum. That's it. The high fat, by the way, is the key to the low-carb or keto diet. Ideally, you're going to get at least 70% of your total daily calories in healthy fats. So, but even fats that have no nutritional value whatsoever, and we're talking butter, mayo, even bacon grease, whatever, they all count toward that. But healthy fats are those fats that actually do contribute nutritional value. Foods like salmon, avocado, pecans, they're very high fat foods, but also rich in other nutrients that your body needs, like potassium, magnesium, fiber, etc. So ideally, you're going to do 20 net carbs max, 70% fat minimum, and you want the highest nutritional value in each of those 20 net carbs, and you want the healthiest fats in all of that 70% of your total daily calories in healthy fats. That would be ideal. It's not like we live in an ideal world, though. You know, you're going to have busy days. You're going to forget to pack your lunch. You're going to not have time for breakfast before you head out the door. You're going to find yourself on vacation, on a road trip. Your sister's birthday party or birthday lunch or whatever might end up being at Olive Garden. You need to know how to deal with these things. And I want you to drop the food guilt. And I want you to not guilt each other and kind of drop the food criticism, because it's extremely important to understand that just because it's your personal preference that you don't eat processed foods or you don't eat processed meats or you don't like monk fruit or you don't eat foods with sugar included or whatever, that doesn't necessarily mean it's not safe or normal or defined as a ketogenic low-carb diet. Because like I said earlier, even broccoli has sugar in it, naturally occurring. It's not added sugar. Berries are great, a very, very good healthy addition to a ketogenic low-carb diet in moderation. They also have sugar in them, naturally occurring. And so you're going to find that there are, people who will say, if it has sugar in it, it's not keto. That's not true. Broccoli is very much a keto-friendly food. And so just wanted to pop on and talk about that for a minute, because like I said, there's so much confusion and so much criticism and so much negativity regarding how keto is defined, how a ketogenic low-carb diet is defined, what keto is and what keto is not. So if you have any questions about that, just leave a comment and we'll continue the discussion. But I would like for it to be a friendly discussion. I would like for you to all be open-minded and realize that the standard basic definition of a ketogenic low-carb diet is simply very low carb, high fat, moderate protein. That's 20 net carbs max, 70% fat minimum, 25% protein max. That's it. Everything else is just a personal preference. So again, a keto low-carb diet, a low-carb diet can be defined in a lot of ways. You know, some people think 100 carbs a meal is a low-carb diet, and by many standards it is. But for a ketogenic low-carb diet, it's basically exactly the same as phase 1 of the Atkins diet. That's it. And so if you're slugging Diet Coke and eating margarine and, having Atkins bars and lots of processed foods, you may not be as healthy as you could be. You may not lose weight as fast as you could. But if your numbers are there, you're still falling within the definition of a ketogenic low-carb diet. So judgment stops there, food guilt stops there. But I would really encourage you to spend each of your 20 net carbs a day with the highest nutritional value or the best, healthiest food choices you can possibly make. And also spend your 70% fat every day in the healthiest fat choices you can make with foods that actually contribute nutritional value to your body. Like I said, avocado, for example, is an extremely high fat, also a good source of fiber, but it has more, it has more potassium than a banana. So it's a very good source of both potassium and magnesium. Salmon and avocado are my top two sources for healthy fats because of that, because they're both great sources for both magnesium and potassium. So consider that when you're looking at your 2070 and you're looking at your keto macros. And speaking of macros, if you go to travelinglowcarb.com/macros, there's a very simple explanation and illustration there on how those work. And I included those links here with this video as well. But like I said, if you have any questions or if you have any concerns or thoughts or feelings about any of this, just leave a comment and we'll continue the discussion.